There is a particular kind of silence that exists before anything meaningful begins. It is not the silence of emptiness, it is the silence of preparation. A laptop screen glows against the warm amber light of a cafe in the early morning hours. Hands move across the keyboard with intention, not urgency. Beside the laptop, a notebook lies open, its pages filled with handwritten goals. Some circled, some underlined, some crossed out and rewritten. The coffee beside it sends a thin ribbon of steam into the air, curling upward before disappearing. This is where it starts, not in a boardroom, not under bright lights, not with applause or an audience. It starts here, in the quiet, where no one is watching and the only accountability is the one you hold with yourself. Every business that has ever changed an industry, every restaurant that has earned a reputation, every deal that has ever been signed in a room full of suits, all of it began in a moment exactly like this one. Someone, somewhere, sat down with an idea and refused to let it stay just an idea. They wrote it down, they mapped it out, they asked the hard questions before anyone else could ask them first. What do I actually want to build? What am I willing to sacrifice to build it? What happens if I fail? And more importantly, what happens if I do not even try? These are not comfortable questions. They are not the kind of questions that come with easy answers or clean timelines. But they are the only questions worth asking when you are serious about building something real. The handwriting in that notebook is not perfect. The goals are not fully formed. Some of them are contradictory. Some of them are terrifying. But they are honest, and honesty is the only foundation that holds weight over time. The cafe fills out slowly around the edges. Other people arrive with their own laptops, their own notebooks, their own quiet ambitions. But the hands on this keyboard do not stop moving. There is work to do, and the morning is already burning. Shift the perspective upward and look down at a restaurant kitchen during peak service, and what you see is not chaos. What you see is a system under pressure. From above, it looks like controlled madness. Chefs moving in tight corridors, plates sliding across stainless steel surfaces, voices calling out orders with the kind of shorthand that only comes from months of repetition. But look closer, and the pattern emerges. Every movement has a purpose. Every station has an owner. Every plate that leaves that kitchen is the result of dozens of micro decisions made in real time by people who have trained themselves to think clearly when everything around them is loud and fast and unforgiving. The restaurant kitchen is one of the most honest classrooms in the world of business. It does not care about your credentials. It does not care about your 5-year plan or your pitch deck or the investors who believe in your vision. It cares about execution. It cares about whether the food is right, whether the timing is right, whether the team is communicating or falling apart under pressure. In a kitchen, the feedback is immediate. You either deliver or you do not. There is no middle ground, no grace period, no opportunity to revise and resubmit. The plate either goes out or it does not. The customer either comes back or they do not. This is the kind of environment that builds a specific type of leader, someone who understands that vision without execution is just a daydream. The head chef standing at the pass is not just cooking. They are managing personalities, monitoring quality, adjusting to unexpected problems, and holding the entire operation together with a combination of skill, authority, and trust. They have earned that position not through titles, but through demonstrated competence, repeated under pressure day after day. What the kitchen teaches more than any business school curriculum is that systems matter more than inspiration. You can be the most talented person in the room, but if your processes are broken, if your communication is unclear, if your team does not know what is expected of them, the whole thing collapses. The best kitchens in the world are not run by the most creative chefs. They are run by the most disciplined ones. Creativity lives inside structure. Innovation happens within systems that are strong enough to support experimentation without falling apart. Every entrepreneur who has ever scaled a business successfully has learned this lesson, whether they learned it in a kitchen or not. The ones who learned it early moved faster. The ones who ignored it paid for it later. The boardroom is quieter than people expect. There is no dramatic music, no slow motion handshake, no cinematic lighting. There is a table, there are chairs, there are documents, and there is a man in a suit holding a pen. The moment before he signs is longer than it looks from the outside. In that pause, years of work compress into a single breath. Every late night, every difficult conversation, every moment of doubt that was pushed aside in favor of forward motion, all of it is present in that room, invisible but undeniable. Signing a contract is not the end of anything. It is the formalization of a beginning. It is the moment when a private commitment becomes a public one, when the work that was done in cafes and kitchens and conference calls becomes legally binding, financially real, and professionally permanent. The weight of that signature is not just the weight of the deal. It is the weight of everyone who helped build the thing being signed for, the employees who showed up when the direction was unclear, the partners who took calls at midnight, the customers who believed before there was much to believe in. A signature in a boardroom is a collective act, even when only one person is holding the pen. What separates the people who reach that table from the ones who do not is rarely talent. It is rarely even luck, though luck plays its role. What separates them is the willingness to stay in the process when the process is uncomfortable, when the progress is invisible, when the results are not yet matching the effort. The man signing those documents did not arrive at that table by accident. He arrived because he made a decision, probably in a quiet moment that looked a lot like a cafe in the early morning, to commit to something before he had any proof it would work. He arrived because he understood, somewhere along the way, that execution is not a phase of the plan, it is the plan. And he arrived because he built something worth signing for, not just financially, but structurally, culturally, and operationally. The deal being signed today is the result of 1,000 smaller decisions made correctly, or at least honestly, over a long period of time. Strip away the aesthetics, the warm cafe light, the kinetic energy of the kitchen, the clean lines of the boardroom, and what remains is a simple truth that most people know, but very few are willing to fully accept. Building something real is slow, it is repetitive, it is full of moments that do not look good on camera and do not make for compelling stories at dinner parties. It is the 15th revision of a business plan that still does not feel right. It is the conversation with a team member that needs to happen but keeps getting postponed. It is the invoice that is late and the client who is unhappy, and the decision that needs to be made without enough information. None of this is glamorous. All of it is necessary. The people who build lasting things are not the ones who are most comfortable with success. They are the ones who are most comfortable with the process, with the uncertainty, the iteration, the long stretches where progress is measured in millimeters rather than miles. They have learned to find meaning in the work itself, not just in the outcomes the work produces. This is not a motivational concept. It is a practical one, because the outcomes are not guaranteed. The deal might not close. The restaurant might not survive its second year. The goals written in that notebook might take a decade longer than expected to materialize. But the process, the discipline of showing up, thinking clearly, building systems, communicating honestly, and executing with consistency, that is always within reach. That is always a choice. The cafe, the kitchen, the boardroom, they are not three separate worlds. They are three stages of the same story. And the story begins the same way every time, with someone deciding that what they want to build is worth the full cost of building it.